We are.
Here we are. Here we are again. Yay.
God, two in a row.
Yeah, who could have even imagined?
Got to keep this up.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah. So
good to see you again, John. Yes.
Likewise. It's I don't know. I haven't checked the air quality. You know, in Chicago, it's been suffering from the Manitoba fires. In the last 2 days, the air quality was. I didn't notice it. Maybe it's because of the time I spent in India. I couldn't tell that there was a problem. But I went to the app that we have, and it said unhealthy, depending on your own health. You know.
Yep.
But
yeah, we're the same thing. Same thing. Unhealthy air. Yeah. But
from those fires. From the Manitoba fires,
as far as I know, yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, who knows? I'm not exactly in on where the non-healthy air is coming from, but we had it yesterday, and we're supposed to be. I think we're going to have it today again, anyway. But we'll survive.
Yeah, today the air seems a little clearer, so I'll find out momentarily.
We're going to get rain, which rain will clear it all out.
Yeah,
and we have to accept what is going to be. Whatever it is going to be.
Oh, yes. And that actually is the topic today. Acceptance.
That is the topic.
Which has come, I mean, partly as I was telling you earlier, like in our daily Sangha this week, because we had a meditation challenge. So, just trying to get membership up and inviting a bunch of new people to join us. And so I focused every day on one of the what are referred to in Jon Kabat-Zinn's Full Catastrophe Living as the attitudinal foundations of mindfulness, which are really kind of helpful and challenging. There are 7 that are on this list. I think there's actually an 8th, which has been added. But, they include non-judging and patience and beginner's mind.
Maybe you want to say a word about Jon Kabat-Zinn in the book, so people can.
Oh well, yeah, Jon Kabat-Zinn, who is the founder of the Center for Mindfulness at UMass and a professor at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and really created this curriculum that I've been teaching for years called mindfulness-based stress reduction. Among others of my students was Doug's illustrious mom, and
that's right,
and among others,
yeah.
And this, his sort of major book, Full Catastrophe Living, includes these attitudinal foundations. And John himself is a serious Zen practitioner and brings all of that into his teaching. And so we have non-striving and acceptance and letting go are the last 3. And acceptance, I think, can be really hard for people to accept.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It's a big stumbling block for a lot of us.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly because people kind of misinterpret it.
Yeah.
Right. They hear it and say, "Well, I can't accept this. I don't like this. I don't want this. I'm not going to accept this."
Yeah.
And it's not to say we don't want it to change, of course, and it's really in many ways, it's the second noble truth that we're looking at. It's what is the cause of our suffering is wanting things to be other than they are. And even that, it's not to say we don't want things to be other than they are, but how do we work with the things that we don't want and the things that we don't want to lose?
Right. There's all these kind of paradoxes here of striving and effort. It's tough. It's tough.
And so it's like finding freedom in that acceptance. I forget what teacher it was that said something. We don't want to fight with the way things are. We don't want to do battle with it. There are any number of ways that come up from various teachers. But if we're confronted with something, do we really want to do battle with it, or do we want to just say, okay, here it is, and
yeah. I mean, I think, but in so much of the Western culture is this idea of doing battle with the way things are. I mean, I comes to mind that poem, which I'm not going to remember exactly, but rage against the dying of the light. This kind of thing. This idea that we have to fight against the way things are and change them and leave our mark on the world and all of this stuff that I mean, it has its place, but it also can get in our way in a very important sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It does get in our way. There's no question about it, uh, and so how do we work with it?
yeah.
Um, and I've personally in the last few months I've been through a lot and had to accept a lot of things, in myself that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to admit to, and um, and had I been fighting with it this whole time, I would have been pretty exhausted,
Yeah.
to say the least, and not have accomplished anything,
Yeah.
except exhaustion. Whereas, if I sort of turn toward these things and say, "Oh wow, this isn't good," and or this was unfortunate, and
Mm-hmm.
or I don't like this, and
Yeah.
how am I going to hold it uh, and make the changes that are needed?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I can,
Yeah. I mean, it sort of reminds me a little bit of the problem that we have, many of us, with compassion. That when people hear the teaching to be compassionate, to be kind to all sentient beings, or all,
right,
and people hear that and they're like, okay, and then they'll say, well, but there's all these people here that I really can't be, kind to, or I can't be compassionate towards, because they're doing all these awful things. And if I
yeah,
were kind to them, that would mean I would be, uh, forgiving them of having done these terrible things. And of course, as we understand, that's a misunderstanding of the teaching, because it's not about absolving somebody else of their responsibility. It's about our own practice.
yeah,
And I think this is a sort of a similar thing of saying that we're going to accept isn't about saying that things are perfect, that we live in the best of all possible worlds. And so therefore,
right,
but rather it's about our own attitude towards the world and how we're going to approach it in the wisest and most skillful way going forward.
yeah. And the other misinterpretation is like, oh, que sera, sera, right? It'll just, things are as they are.
Yeah.
Which is to a degree true. Things are as they are. That doesn't mean we just accept. It doesn't. It means, okay, we accept things as they are right now, and
yeah,
we can also make changes. And I think it can be really helpful. I'm looking forward. Not tomorrow, actually. I'm going to my first meeting of the Braver Angels organization in Chicago. Braver Angels is a organization that was founded, I think, a decade ago, or maybe shortly after Trump was elected the first time. I can't remember. They bring together sort of, quote, red and blue.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you told me about that. Yeah, you were
and
I think you spoke about that in a previous podcast.
It could be,
great.
but I still haven't been to a meeting, so I'm looking forward to going to the group tomorrow. Of course, I'm in a very blue city, so but there are people who are not. I mean, even that that dichotomy is not helpful, but here it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's the easiest way to define it, and but I think it's like, okay, so I can accept what you're saying about this particular policy. I can understand where you're coming from. I can be with that. And can you accept what I'm saying? And where's the middle ground? It's like sort of, and we can even, I mean, it's interesting, like, where is the middle way within, I mean, going back to, the middle way being Buddhism, like, where is the middle way within this attitude of acceptance, right? Or is that the middle way?
Yeah. And to an extent, there's this problem of figuring out what we mean by middle anyway, especially when you have, what is it? The shifting of the frameworks of our conversation. I've forgotten what is the term? There's a term for it. The political sphere has shifted I think, over
Uh,
time.
we're talking about that middle way.
Yeah,
Yes.
Overton, the Overton window.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the Overton window has shifted over time, where things that were not considered, you know, uh, responsible political speech now all of a sudden are,
Yeah.
especially on one side of the spectrum, and
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's really
so,
on both extremes of the spectrum, and
well,
so
I
those
don't think
extremes are
so.
getting.
No, I
Yeah.
really don't think so, because on the left, there really hasn't been much of a shift. The left collapsed back in the 1950s, in the United
Oh,
States,
yeah.
and
That's
really
true.
has not
Yeah.
recovered. I mean, if you look at the left in the United States compared to the left in Europe and the rest of the world, it really doesn't exist here, to any
Yeah.
significant
That.
extent.
Yeah.
But the right has gotten much, much, much farther right,
Yeah.
compared to its historical past and compared to the rest of the world. And that shift of the window, by definition, will mean that whatever we think of as middle, if we literally mean the middle, will have shifted to the right quite a bit.
Yeah.
And to what extent are we going to accept that as the middle? And to what extent are we going to say, wait a second, this is a false middle?
Yeah. Interesting. But so I guess what I was trying to say, I mean, although I think what you're pointing to is really important, is where is within a Buddhist context,
Mm,
like how does acceptance fall within the middle way? Like, how do we, within our own personal experience,
right.
what am I willing to accept, and how do I accept it?
Hmm.
Do I have to be willing to accept everything?
Right.
And I guess the answer is, well, yes, and you know, accept everything and change what you can if it's needed.
Right. Hmm.
And in the political sphere, it's possible not to accept unwholesome language.
Hmm.
And even the Buddha would say, I don't accept that gift, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so there's something what he doesn't accept is something that is really unskillful and harmful.
Yeah.
And so how does that fit itself into this idea of acceptance?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think this is a very important way to consider this problem, because in early Buddhism, we really don't have the teaching of radical acceptance in the same way
Right.
that we do in later
True.
Buddhism. And
Yeah,
I think
true.
the Buddha had a different framing of all these problems, where there were things that he would not accept. And if you think of the Buddha's teaching on right intention, it's a teaching of renunciation, of non-anger, and of harmlessness. And that is to say, not accepting of anger, that anger is not right, and that harm is not right, and that renunciation, in a certain sense, depending on how we interpret that, means that the accumulation is not right. Depending, of course, there's different interpretations depending on if you're a layperson or a monastic, but there's a lot of depth here. But in any event, his general picture was one of determining which are the skillful things and which are the unskillful things, and just not accepting the unskillful things, whether they're
Right.
mind states or other people's behaviors or whatever. And this is an
Well,
elaboration on that, I think.
yeah, it's interesting though, because of course, if somebody's experiencing anger as an emotion,
Mm,
here it is, anger is
yep.
here.
Hmm.
It is, I mean, as I hear, acceptance in that framework, it's like, okay, here it is.
Yeah, being mindful of it. Hmm.
Yeah, and so now what?
Yeah.
Right? How do I hold that anger? What do I do with that anger? How do I experience the anger? How does it change?
Right.
And so this is really about mindfulness, and that's why in John's book, it's an attitudinal foundation of mindfulness. So yes, anger is here.
Yep.
I'm not going to, and then in terms of like the non-judging, I'm not going to beat myself up because I have this anger here.
Right.
It's here, and do I act from it? No, because my actions are likely to be unskillful. But if I'm not even aware that it's here, then for sure the action is going to be unskillful. So, with bringing that attitude of okay, wow, this is hard, this is anger, and I need to sit with this, or I need to let this pass, or whatever it is. however we work with it. So that's
what is the prayer about, whatever, God help me to accept
the Serenity Prayer, right?
Serenity Prayer.
Things
I think this is sort of similar, because the idea is, accept the things that I can't change.
Right.
I mean, what's happening right here, right now, literally, I can't change it. It's right here. I mean, it's already happened.
Exactly.
I'm already aware of it.
I'm in the middle of it. Yeah,
I'm in the middle of it. It's already in fact, if I've experienced it, it's already in the recent past, and everything in the past is something that I can't affect.
Yeah.
So, my action starts now. In every moment, my actions start, and they start given a certain way things are. And so, the Serenity Prayer of just saying, allow me to accept what is, as is,
and change what I can,
and change what I can. So I think that's the way I would sort of understand it, frame it as accept it, because there's no other option. But I mean, it's already happened. It's the way things are. It's the reality. And so not accepting reality is being in delusion, and delusion isn't helpful to anybody. So, I mean, you have to begin with clear seeing of what is in front of me right now, which is the way things are. And then, it's wisdom that comes in, at that point, and says, okay, this is the way things are. Should they be changed? Is there something that might make things better? And in that, and then moving forward, we can try to think of that. But we have to begin from a place that's not delusional. And I think part of the problem that we see around us so much in politics is the willingness of people to delude themselves because they like to hear a fun story. I mean, they have a story that makes them happy, that gives them satisfaction, that makes them feel better about themselves, even if it's not actually true. And so they're more willing to accept a story that makes them feel a certain way than see things for what they are. And that's a very dangerous way to live for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And and so, I mean, when you say yes, whatever we're accepting it's already happened. But we're feeling the residual effects of it.
Yeah.
And but we have to then, okay, that's in the moment. The residual effect is in the moment. So this thing happened, I'm feeling angry, and can I just let that anger be and let it, knowing the wisdom is knowing that it will change, knowing it's going to change like everything else. And I think where we get lost in the acceptance is when we bring up the question, well, why do I need to accept this, or why am I having this experience, or what, and it's like
the story.
Yeah, but then we get lost in the story, and it just inevitably exaggerates, if that's the right word, whatever we've been experiencing, or just
amplifies
sustains it.
It
amplifies and sustains it.
Yeah.
And that's of no help.
Papancha, that's the mental this kind of proliferation that keeps us upset and angry and nervous and anxious and all the rest.
Yeah. And so this idea of I don't know if you hear all the background noise here, but I'm generally in a quiet neighborhood, but when there's a helicopter buzzing overhead and a siren on the other side, it's like, oh,
that's all right. You're in an urban environment. That's fine.
Yeah. And it's and then the construction on the other side. But it's I mean, so it's like there's no choice, right? This is here. I have to accept this as it is. And so do you, because it might be, getting in the way of the audio. I don't know. But so we have these continual moments. We have so many opportunities to just practice with this because it's all we have.
Yeah.
And, we're confronted with stuff continually. And I know personally, like there are certain things that I really have a hard time accepting. And as a result, I get angry at the person I may be dealing with, like really bad customer service. You know, it's like
Yeah.
over and over again, and
Yeah.
somebody, and how do you, one does not need to accept that one can become a customer of some other company. Maybe,
Maybe.
Depends on the situation. If you have a choice,
Yeah.
and
But then you'll have bad customer service with that other company too. I mean, if they're
more
all
than likely, although it's not
it
always the
depends, but
case. I mean,
yeah.
I've had some really interesting customer service experiences this past week, and one of them's been ongoing for about 2 months now.
Oh.
And I can't quit this company because it's a life insurance policy. It's just like,
Okay.
and it's a good deal. If I wanted to get a new policy, I would not be able to afford it now. But the company has just been so horrible. And yet, there was 2 other instances where I was handled really, they replaced something that needed to be, different kind of company, but it was like, oh yeah, it's still under warranty. We'll send you the new part or whatever it is.
Right.
No questions asked.
Sure.
So it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, there's nothing. So I have to accept the situation with the life insurance company, but I get really angry at them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the anger is not helpful. It makes me feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
And then I feel like crap. So it's really, taking these opportunities to just notice the moments where you can't accept something as it is, and what happens if you do.
Yeah.
Whether it's external, having to do with somebody on the other end of the phone, or internal, like your own direct experience of anger or frustration or jealousy, whatever it is. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
what are these things like?
Yeah.
And is fighting it going to be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. And also, are you going to be able to deal most skillfully with this person on the phone or whatever, who's your customer service representative,
right.
if you're getting pissed at them? Now, I mean, sometimes it can help to just to be a little harsh. I mean, even the Buddha himself was harsh at times with some of his monks. But you have to figure out how you can most skillfully use that. But I mean, we're all imperfect, and we all get overwhelmed by frustration sometimes, and just
Yeah. Well, my words to her were, "This is unacceptable customer service, and you need to do something about it."
Well,
and of course, she couldn't do anything.
Yeah, of course she couldn't do anything. Maybe if you asked to speak to her boss.
Yeah, I did. That didn't get me anywhere.
That didn't get.
So it's like, I don't.
What are you gonna do?
I think they know how bad the people that are working there know how bad it is.
Yeah.
And now, of course, what I find hilarious, right, in terms of just pointing to like unacceptable things, is this whole spat between Trump and Musk.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's like suddenly, once they were best friends, and now they're like, they can't accept each other.
Well, Schadenfreude is not a really good Buddhist attitude to have.
So anyway, yeah. So what else do we have to say about acceptance? I don't know. That's covered a lot, actually.
Yeah. No. I mean, I mean, the book. What is it? Radical Acceptance is the name of the book.
Oh yeah, Tara Brach.
Tara Brach. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, she makes a very good point immediately in that book as well. Just the one that we've been making here. I mean, she states the points of radical acceptance extremely clearly, of being accepting of all things, but then she immediately says that doesn't mean rolling over in the face of abuse or something like that.
Yeah,
but that is a complete misunderstanding. And it's this kind of subtle thing that is the heart of so much Buddhist practice that I think gets in the way. I heard a friend of mine say, has to do with the semantics around these words. A lot of people get I think hooked on the semantics of the terms and think acceptance means letting people off the hook, just as much as they think being kind and compassionate to others means letting them off the hook for all the bad things that they've done.
Yeah, not at all.
And that's where I think a lot of us get stuck with these kinds of practice suggestions is that we think that we're not. First of all, it's difficult. We have to admit that right off the bat, is that we're not talking about. We're not saying that we're perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect at any of this. I'm not saying. I mean, I'm not enlightened yet. The idea. I mean, if enlightenment is really full enlightenment is possible, I'm not there yet.
Neither am I.
Yeah, none of us are saying that this is like easy.
The insurance company will tell you that. Yeah, and yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. And that's where it's interesting. It's like the moment where we notice that it's hard is the moment to look.
Yeah,
like
like
what's getting in the way here of this acceptance, of my acceptance of this situation? And of
And
course, it could be completely obvious, like, oh, I've been abused. Well, duh. Yeah, so you don't accept the abuse
right.
at all. Although, there is that gruesome sutta where he talks about being sawed, having your limbs sawed, and that's.
Well, he doesn't
abuse.
say accept it so much as he says don't. To have a mind of kindness, continue to have the right kind of mindset, a mind of kindness, which is, I mean, obviously is something way beyond the kind of place I'm at. But look, think of it this way. It's a practice for yourself. And so
of course.
The point again is not to externalize this and say, I am letting this other person off the hook if I'm accepting. What you're saying is, I'm putting myself in a better place. The idea about these practices, when you do them, try them out and see how you feel. And I think the idea is that having put yourself in a place of acceptance, you'll find that you yourself are in a better place psychologically, in a place that's more at ease, more capable of responding effectively than if you're coming from a place of non-acceptance immediately. You'll feel better. You come from a place of more kindness, more calm, more ease, more peace, which puts you in a better place to do the right thing, which may mean ending whatever is going on. And if in the case of abuse, I mean, or leaving, or getting out of there, just putting it behind you, which is often the most skillful thing you can do.
Absolutely.
And so
walking away.
So absolutely. So I mean, I think we're not asking, the practice here is not to make yourself feel bad. The practice is to make yourself feel better by doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so practice on.
Keep going. Keep trying.
Keep on practicing, and keep digging the Dharma, and we will be here.
And we'll be here, and keep drinking those coffees.
Yes, keep drinking that coffee, and maybe buy us a cup or two.
That's right.
All right.
Over on our I'll put up our banner for diggingthedharma.com, our website.
And and please send us your questions, your comments, and we love to hear from you.
Or show up to our live stream and feel free to ask questions.
Oh, there's that. Yes, our live stream. Will it be next week at this time? Maybe on Thursday. We have to talk about that.
I'll set it up. Okay. And good to
see
you, friends. Good to see you, John.
Take care.
Take care. Yep.
Bye.